In this episode, a conversation with Satish Kumar. Satish, born in 1936 in India, is an Indian-British peace activist. In 1962, he completed a peace walk of over 8,000 miles, traveling from New Delhi through Moscow, Paris, London, and finally Washington, D.C. Furthermore, he is the founder of Schumacher College International Centre for Ecological Studies in the UK and the editor of Resurgence and Ecologist magazine. More on his extraordinary life, I can heartily recommend his autobiography, No Destination. In our conversation, we go into the history of Schumacher College and the underlying philosophy of its founder, the economist and environmentalist E.F. Schumacher. We talk about the essence of education and how Schumacher College has always incorporated a holistic approach to education, where head, heart and hands, or soul, soil and society, each play similarly important parts. We end with a haiku by Basho, which for me symbolizes the essence of these conversations. And since a haiku, or a poem for that matter, is best read out twice, let me introduce this conversation through Basho's words, still echoing some 400 years later. Temple bells die out. The fragrant blossoms remain. A perfect evening. Great to see you again.
It's a great pleasure to have this conversation with you, Louis.
Yeah, well, that's. I'm very happy that you found a little bit of time. And as I said before, this podcast is called Ongoing Conversations.
Yeah.
And we've had a previous conversation some years ago, and I've went to Schumacher College, and so for me, the way I look sometimes at life, the way I experience life, is something that is ongoing. Oftentimes we want a goal or an outcome, and we move towards that outcome. But I feel it much more as this openness, this open conversation, and wherever it goes. And
that's good.
So let's jump in a little bit. Because the reason that I contacted you again is because I went to the Schumacher College and a couple of times for different courses, and I saw that a couple of years ago it came into some trouble, and right now it's in transition. But I saw that there are new courses now coming up. So I was wondering kind of wondering what's going on, but at the same time I thought could you start at the beginning, how Schumacher College was created, how you created Schumacher College, and maybe start with your conversations, your ongoing conversations almost with Schumacher, the man himself. Because I imagine that must have been the blueprint for this college.
Yes. E.F. Schumacher wrote this wonderful book called Small is Beautiful. And he was one of the editors of Resurgence magazine. And they were looking for a full-time editor. And I met Schumacher, and he said to me that, Satish, you are the kind of person we need to be the editor of Resurgence magazine. So I said to him but Mr. Schumacher, I'm not in England. I live in India. I'm just visiting England for a very short time. And I want to go back to India. So you should look for somebody else.
Right.
And he said, but why do you want to go back to India? I'm offering this nice job for you. You are a good writer, good editor. I've known your work. And so why don't you edit Resurgence magazine? I said, no, I want to go back to India because I'm working for the Gandhian movement. So Schumacher said, but Satish, there are many Gandhians in India. We need one in England.
Right.
So please stay and edit the magazine, Resurgence, and make it a Gandhian magazine in the West. Because the Western world needs Gandhian values of non-violence, of peace, of ecology, of living in harmony with nature. All these Gandhian values are very much needed in our time, particularly in the West.
Right.
And so I said, all right, if I become the editor of Resurgence magazine, will you contribute in every issue of Resurgence? I said, all right, that's a deal. If you become the editor, I will contribute one article in every issue. I said, that's a good deal. So that's how I became the editor of Resurgence magazine in 1973.
Right.
Then in 1976, E.F. Schumacher passed away. And so we thought that he was such a great visionary economist. His vision of small is beautiful, decentralized, organic living, ecological living, spiritual values, Buddhist values. He wrote a very famous essay called The Buddhist Economics. I said, those values we need to keep going and keep promoting. And so immediately after his death, I established something called Schumacher Lectures. And there were some people in Bristol University, and they said, we will support you. We will hold and host the lectures in the University of Bristol. So in 1977, the first Schumacher lectures were held in the University of Bristol. And the first 3 lectures were given by Ivan Illich, R.D. Lang, and Avery Lovins. And they were very successful, sold out, 800 people in the first series of lectures.
And were these lectures also, were they about small is beautiful, about Buddhist economics, or in a more broad sense?
I mean, they were kind of sympathetic to Schumacher's values and vision of small is beautiful, Buddhist economics, but also ecological and
Right.
spiritual values, and how to live in harmony with the natural world, how to live in harmony with the human world, and how to live in harmony with yourself. So it's a very broad kind of remit and a broad brief. But of course, ecological and spiritual values and Buddhist values, and Buddhist values mean spiritual values, material well-being and spiritual well-being should go together. So that was the theme. And then we invited many others. Every year we held these lectures. James Lovelock, Christoph Capra, Arne Ness, Vandana Shiva, Jonathan Porritt, Caroline Lucas, many great ecological, spiritual, holistic thinkers gave Schumacher lectures. During that time, the trustees of Dartington Hall used to come to Schumacher lectures. And one day I was talking with them, and the trustees of Dartington said that we have got this nice building called the Old Boston, and perhaps you should do something here related to Schumacher. So I said, yes, we need to have a more permanent place where we can hold regular teaching, not just one-off lecture for 1 hour or 1 day, but every day studying and practicing, living the principles of Schumacher, not only talking about them, not only thinking about them, not only writing about them, but practicing. And so that was the idea. And so the old Boston building at Dartington Hall was empty with the accommodation for 40 people and a land. And so Dartington said, if you want to run Schumacher College, then you can hold it here. We'll give you the building. We'll give you the property without any charge, without any rent. And then you run the college at your own expense. We are not going to give you any money, but we can give you the building.
Right.
That was a very good deal. So in kind of 79, this was the conversation happened. And for within 2 years, we agreed. Or no, for a few years we talked. Yeah, sorry. No, 89, not 79.
89, right.
89. And then by 1991, January 1991, we launched Schumacher College.
Right.
And our first teacher was James Lovelock. And we said that we want to establish Schumacher College, which does not appear to be against science. But what kind of science? New kind of science. Science which is holistic. science which is more kind of ecological and spiritual.
Right.
And so we wanted to create a college with James Lovelock as our first teacher and a regular teacher, so that Gaia, Earth as a living organism, can be the motto of Schumacher College.
Right.
And so that was how we started in 1991.
Great. So what I was wondering is, so you talked about how Schumacher is also kind of a Gandhian philosopher, or a Gandhian economist, maybe. You are in line of Gandhi as well, and that has that always has to do with how to make practical the lofty philosophical ideas, how to bring them into the world, right? Because so oftentimes there are so many lectures, there are so many ideas floating around. And especially at least the way I've had my formal education, I studied philosophy. It became kind of strange and grating to me that we would just sit there, read thousands and thousands of pages, then write about those arguments that we've learned about, then rehash them, put out papers, and then we were philosophers. Then we were doing philosophy, even though there was no real practicality to it. I guess maybe, 30 people would read these papers, and
Yes.
there was always this huge gap between the ideas and the doing. And it always struck me as a strange thing that the people who come up with the ideas are not the people who are also putting them out into the world. So my question would be, and the way you describe it as well, there's kind of a conversation that grew between you and Schumacher. It was never about ideas, just about ideas. It was always about putting it into the world, right? Was Schumacher also trying to put his ideas into the world, or was he mostly writing about it? What kind of person was he?
Schumacher was about balancing ideas with practice.
Right.
And so when we established Schumacher College, we said we will have education of head, education of heart, education of hands. Because head is thinking, head is knowledge, head is information. You can have a lot of knowledge, a lot of information, a lot of ideas, but without putting them in practice, those ideas just remain ideas. So we said that we need to have ideas put in practice. And so education of head, education of heart. And heart is, the word for heart in French is cœur, which comes from a courage. So the courage words comes from the heart. And so we need to have courage in our heart to do new things, take risk in life, and practice things. And then hands. Our hands are a miracle. It's a kind of great gift. We can grow food. We can build a house. We can make furniture. We can make pottery. We can write books. We can do things. So practicing is with your hands. So the motto or the pedagogy of Schumacher College was, and still is, that our education should be education of head, education of heart, and education of hands. That was the one thing. Because without practice, it's easy to believe in everything. You can believe in ecology, you can believe in love, you can believe in relationship, you can believe in spirituality, you can believe in organic living, but you don't practice it, then just belief is nothing. No importance. So Schumacher always emphasized practice. And he was a great gardener himself. He had land, and he grew vegetables, and he cooked, and he made bread, and he was a great practitioner. And he meditated. And so at Schumacher College, all our students participate in the gardening, in the cooking, in walking, going out in nature. And we also say nature is our teacher. Not only human teacher like James Lovelock or Vandana Shiva or Arne Ness or Jonathan Porritt or Caroline Lucas, but nature is our teacher. So we go out in nature, or Dartmoor, by the river Dart, or in the field, or in the garden, and we learn from nature. So nature is also our teacher. So that was a great idea that we should do education of head, education of heart, education of hands.
Yeah, and it struck me when I think that was actually the course that I attended, heart, hands, and head, heart, and hands. I would say I should say that I came in there with a small group of people, and first you walk through the estate, so you're already stepping into this beautiful garden, this beautiful forest-like place, and I stepped into a classroom, and Stefan Harding was there,
Yeah.
and he was playing on his guitar just very easily, and a couple more people entered the room, and I've never had education in this form, and it started right there, right then, um, at that moment, where there was not he wasn't the teacher just sharing the knowledge that he has so that us students could learn, but he was just Stefan, and we were just people. I was just Louis, and there was a sharing of ideas, and but it had lost all its formality, the way I was used to receiving education, where it was all about, a teacher supplying knowledge and us trying to, you know study and rehearse and all that kind of stuff. But here there was a true connection between people, as if I think I was in a garden 2,500 years ago, with Epicurus, the Greek philosopher, where we would just open up to what is going on, share the knowledge we have, and that had a profound effect on the way we got taught by Stefan, because there
Yeah.
was this, I don't know, there was no necessity to learn, but
Yeah.
there was a willingness, an openness, and
Yeah.
that has really struck me as, um, it was a very humane being together,
Yeah.
and in that being together there was a um, conversation, and we taught each other and we learned from each other. It felt like I'm trying to describe something that I've never really put words to, but it felt as though um, I was being taught in a natural way of being taught, if you understand what I'm
Absolutely.
saying.
I mean, that was the idea of learning at Schumacher College. The teacher is a teacher, but teacher is also a student.
Right.
And the students are students, but students are also teachers. So learning is a journey together. We are working together and learning together. And actually, in our kind of conventional education, we think the student is totally ignorant and student has no knowledge, and it's an empty bucket, and we have to fill this empty bucket of a student with information or knowledge or ideas. But in the Schumacher College, we don't think like that. At Schumacher College, we think that a student's like a seed, and the seed has a tree in it. And so the job of a teacher or a role of a teacher is to nurture that seed, put in the soil, give the right compost, give the right amount of water, give the right sunshine, allow that time that a seed can become a tree. So the student can become who she or he is themselves and learn themselves. And the student is like a gardener who is helping there. So that Stefan Harding or myself or James Lovelock or Vandana Shiva or Fritjof Capra, they were all there to help, to support, to encourage, and kind of inspire the student to learn. But they have discovered themselves. The self-knowledge is as important as knowledge about other things and knowledge of the world. Yeah. And so learning, but also how to live in the world. That is a very important lesson at Schumacher College. In our modern sort of educational system of universities and the colleges, you are training yourself to get a job. The main purpose of education is to find a job. Schumacher College is not find a job, but create a job. Create your own job and be your own master, and find a way of life which relates and helps and a kind of supports each other. And so how to have a work which is ecologically regenerative and sustainable. Because Schumacher was an economist, and his economics was very much kind of economics of nature. Economy of nature is cyclical. What you put in the soil, that soil gives that seed into a tree, and the tree has the branches and has a flowers, and the flowers have fruit, and that apples or mangoes or whatever, that fruit has seeds in it, and those seeds go back in the soil and then become tree again. So there is no waste, there is no pollution in nature. So the economy of nature is a true economy, and we humans have to learn from nature. And at the moment, our economy is a very linear economy. It's not a very economy of nature, but it's an industrial economy. It's an economy which is linear. You take from nature, use it, and throw it away. So our rivers are polluted with sewage and lots of rubbish, and our oceans are polluted with plastic, and our soil is polluted with lots of chemicals and fertilizers, and a lot of waste, and a lot of pollution. In nature, there's no waste bin. In the forest, there's no waste bin. But in our industrial system, there's a lot of waste, a lot of pollution. So Schumacher's idea of economy, which we practice at Schumacher College, is to have this cyclical economy so that we don't kind of waste and we don't pollute. And we live a very elegant but simple life. So nature has enough in the world. Nature has enough for everybody's need, but not enough for anybody's greed. At the moment, our economy is a greed economy. And Schumacher's economy and the economy of Schumacher College is a need-based economy. We must fulfill our need. Food, clothes, shoes, furniture, house, all fine. But after that, we should also have a time for poetry, for music, for art, for culture, for dancing, for friends, for family, for meditation, for walking, for gardening, for cooking. All those things are as important. So Schumacher College and Schumacher himself philosophy, they are very holistic and very ecological and very sustainable and very regenerative.
Right, and in that sense, we are cyclical as well, of course, since we are nature, understanding or trying to understand itself. And it's crazy to think that I think he wrote the book in 1971. That these ideas then probably were not easily accepted. I guess there was a small group of people who were accepted to it or could see the wisdom to it. And it's so weird to me to look back, right? Even though I was born in 1985, but if everyone who lived then in 1970, the book came out, of course, The Club of Rome, Limits to Growth, sort of the first true consciousness of that we were in fact part of this cyclical nature, that there were limits to growth, that we definitely needed a system to join into the cyclical nature of our environment. But we failed miserably. Have you found that there's been a resurgence of this thinking? I mean, we are now, in a time where, all the crises we're living in them at the moment. Do you see, is there a difference now to the way these ideas are being taught or the way these ideas are being spoken about? Is that different from the 1970s?
The difference between these ideas being taught at Schumacher College and generally in the world is that in the world, people still think, in spite of Club of Rome and Limits to Growth and Blueprint for Survival and Small is Beautiful and Silent Spring and many, many great books have been there. Yet, in the world, still people think that nature is out there. The mountains, the forests, the rivers, and the animals are nature. And humans are not nature. Humans are separate from nature. And not only separate from nature, humans are above nature. Humans are superior to nature. And so the value of nature, value of forests and mountains and rivers and the soil and the animals is only measured in terms of how useful they are to humans. That idea is still dominant and still prominent. Schumacher College is saying that humans are also nature. We are nature. We are made of earth, air, fire, water. And therefore, what we do to nature, we do to ourselves. We are not above nature. We are not superior to nature. And the value of trees and mountains and animals and forests and the rivers is not, should be measured in terms of how useful they are to humans. Nature or every living being has its intrinsic value. That's a kind of deep ecology. And that deep ecology is very much part of Schumacher thinking. Small is Beautiful is very much a deep ecological and deep economic thinking. And Arne Naess and many other people have continued on that idea. So I would say that at Schumacher College, we say that nature is a living being. Earth is a Gaia, which means Earth is a living organism. Rivers are living beings. They are conscious. They have consciousness. They have a spirit. And therefore, they are not just, Earth is not a dead rock. It's a living organism, Gaia. So that's a kind of difference between the education at Schumacher College and education in the mainstream world. Mainstream world is still not catching up with the idea that we are nature and nature living organism, and what we do to nature, we do to ourselves, and therefore we must have a recycling or cyclical economy rather than linear economy. That idea is still not mainstream. That idea is still kind of, it's growing, and the 25,000 students around the world who have been to Schumacher College. And there are lots of people thinking. There's a growing minority of people who are understanding and realizing and appreciating this idea that we are nature, and what we do to nature, we do to ourselves. And the value of nature is intrinsic and should not be seen as humans above nature, superior to nature, and value of nature is only how useful it is to humans. That idea is changing, but Schumacher College is still the leading organization teaching that idea that nature is alive and nature has intrinsic value.
Yeah, and I guess also one of the main things is that there are many places where knowledge is practiced immediately, right? So to me, that's also there again, coming back to what I said earlier, that there are so many ideas, but to find places where we can try to practice these ideas into the world, to feel it as well, to make it physical, to make it a part of our being. I guess it's something that Schumacher College does as well, and I think that is also something that many other colleges, the way I've learned about biology is through a book, or it's pretty strange, right? That you don't learn that in nature, or learn about my body even through a book, through your mind, through your brain, not by experiential knowledge, not by doing it, but by learning about it. So I think that's also something that more and more is necessary to understand that. And Schumacher wrote about this. I really enjoy this book, the Guide for the Perplexed, which I think came out posthumously, where he talks about what it is to be a human being. And there he really dives into this idea that what you said as well is we are so much more than just brains on some legs. And one more thing I want to add is this idea of us being nature, right? Nature or life, maybe, in its essence, also has this great unpredictability to it, right? There's a not knowing where it will go or grow or relate to or find love. There's a big not knowing.
Yeah.
And so much of education, or so much of our culture has been turned toward, okay, you should know what you are going to do and then do that, and then you have a job or whatever. It's all goal oriented, and I think there's a great tension there to what life actually is. There's this beauty and wonder and unpredictability of life. And just one more thing, coming back to what you said, and then I'm very eager to hear what you have to say about that. But about education, that it has its root, its Latin root in two words, I think, two verbs, where you have educare and educere in Dutch Latin, so to speak.
Yeah.
And the one is about putting in knowledge, but the other is to bring forth, and I think this is actually in the Schumacher book. It's about to bring forth what actually is inside us, you as a
Yeah.
human being. And there, I think, there is the great unpredictability of life. And I
Yeah.
think true education, also, or learning about the world, is also about how to step into this grand, beautiful experiment of not knowing where we are going.
You are absolutely right, Louis, that this goal-oriented, result-oriented, outcome-oriented culture that we have today is very oppressive and very destructive. Whereas I wrote a book called No Destination. So living everyday life as it comes, welcoming uncertainty, welcoming unpredictability, and action itself has intrinsic value rather than the results, the outcome, the goal, the destination. Because every day is a fresh new day. Every action is a new action. Every word you speak is a new word. So living day by day, moment by moment, and living in the action itself and a process of life, that is very important. And this is why we at Schumacher College say that we need to have a much more holistic lifestyle in which, I mean, I've called it a trinity of soil, soul, and society. So how we relate to nature, how we relate to soil, that is very important. And in our goal-oriented society, job-oriented society, we have lost our connection with the soil. And without the soil, we cannot be human. The word human comes from humus. Humus, humus, and humus means soil. So human beings are soil beings, and we have lost that connection with the soil. And very few people are working on the land. Very few people are working in the garden. We all need to be gardeners. We all need to grow food. We need to plant trees. We need to be orchard keepers. And then the soul, our spirituality, our compassion, our kindness, our generosity, our courage, all these values need to be cultivated. If we don't have those spiritual values, the soul values, and only we have lots of money and lots of houses and lots of cars and lots of airports and lots of roads and lots of railways and all the things, but no compassion, no kindness, no peace, no generosity, no courage, what's the value of that life? So at Schumacher College, we say the spiritual values of soul are as important. And then society, we say that before you are Hindu, Muslim, Christian, or Asian, or African, or black, or white, or communist, or capitalist, or whatever you are, we are all human beings. And we should respect every human being as they are. There's a kind of philosophy of Schumacher College that every human being should be welcomed as human beings and not discriminated against anybody because you are Hindu or Muslim or Christian or communist or capitalist or Russians or Chinese or Ukrainians or whatever. So this is a kind of soil, soul, society, the kind of trinity which I presented at Schumacher College, inspired by E.F. Schumacher and many of his colleagues, like I said, James Lovelock and Stefan Harding and Arnie Ness and Vandana Shiva. So that's a kind of idea of Schumacher College.
Right. I'm conscious of your time, so but I just want to add just one more thing, just of what you just said is, the head, heart, hands, soil, soul, society. This talks of a wholeness.
Yeah.
This talks of an understanding of us being part of a greater whole. And it's interesting always to me to think that the way to truly add to the wholeness is by being yourself as much as you can, right? There's this almost, it almost feels contradictory where it's well, just be part of the whole then, but that would be more communist. It's more of, no, the more you become yourself, the more you grow your true seed, so to speak, your own soul in your own society, in your own soil, you add the most to the wholeness. And for me, there's an interesting combination of the book you wrote, which I read and really enjoyed. You, I think, being you are the archetypal and the true pilgrim, for you have walked many pilgrimages, um, but that there's no destination, but the destination maybe to understand the road to travel is, and to understand how one can become part of the wholeness and join in this wholeness, is actually to first go inside oneself and understand what it is you want to add to the world, right? What it is that your values are, what it is that you feel you need to add, and be that maybe more theoretical, or be that more practical, or be that more in society, or more on your own. It's there. I'm saying this because there's no road, one road fits for all. And I think, but the more you understand your own truth and the more you live it, the more you step into the world without a destination, but knowing you are joining in the wholeness.
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree. Because at the moment, our education trains you to become something like an engineer or a doctor or a business person or whatever, a label, and then you work that. Whereas a Schumacher College education is to discover yourself. Who am I? And how I can be more creative, more imaginative, more artistic, and more in the service of humanity, and at the same time find fulfillment
Right.
and a kind of self-realization for myself, and a love of the self, as well as love of nature and love of humanity. So that kind of relationship is a very important aspect of Schumacher College. And as I said, that we were at Dartington, and I want to add this as a kind of conclusion of our conversation, is that after 35 years, um, the original trustees of Dartington passed away, and the new trustees came, and they said that it's too expensive for us to give you the building without any rent, and it's too expensive for us to run Schumacher College. We can't afford it. So now you become independent, and we cannot give you the building. So now Schumacher College is independent, and Schumacher College is in transition. So we are at the moment running our courses in different locations, like Sharpham House in Ashburton, or Ashplington, either the Sharpham House at Ashplington, and many other places like that. We are hiring. But in the meantime, we are also looking to buy a new location, a new campus, a new home for Schumacher College. And for that, we are trying to raise funds at the moment. And we already have raised nearly £2 million. And we need 1 more million to buy this new location, which we have in sight in Buckfast Lee. And so we will continue to run Schumacher College, but we are going through this transition period. But we are confident, and we have got very strong team of staff and a strong leadership and a strong vision, a strong business plan. So we are determined to continue with Schumacher College, because I think the world needs Schumacher College. We need a new kind of education which is holistic, and which is discovering yourself, who you are, and how you can be more ecological, spiritual, and in the service of humanity and the service of the planet Earth, and live in such a way that that we can leave the world, the planet, in a good shape and a good condition for the future generations, and not have kind of global warming and climate change and carbon emission and pollution and waste and the soil polluted and the oceans polluted and rivers polluted. So we want to have a new ecological world view and an ecological lifestyle. And that's why Schumacher College is very urgently needed. And after 35 years, we will continue to run Schumacher College. But at the moment, we are going through this transition. And if any of your listeners are listening and want to support and help and join and participate, you are welcome to contact us.
Great, and I hope many of them will do that, because the soul is very much alive in you, but also I can see in the emails I get sent, the courses that are still being created. The soul is there. The society still is also very much there. But as we've talked about, it is one more necessary ingredient is the soil to bring these ideas into the ground, into the humus. We as humans, we should return there. So where can listeners that want to join or want to help, where can they go?
So you go to Satish Kumar Foundation website and also Schumacher College website, and all the information is there. So Satish Kumar Foundation has been established in order to re-establish and give new life, a new birth to Schumacher College. And so you can go to Satish Kumar Foundation website and Schumacher College website.
Yeah, great. And and they can also there subscribe to the newsletter and join the courses that are being held all over Europe.
Yes.
And so maybe
and Schumacher College offshoots are happening around the world.
Right.
We are creating a kind of network of Schumacher inspired centers. So we have a Schumacher inspired center in Brazil, in Belgium, in France, in China, in India, in many countries like that. And so we want to see a network of holistic education around the world. And people, like small is beautiful.
Right.
Many small centers of learning and practicing, 100 people, 50 people, 200 people at the most. And not many big kind of institutions or big organizations, but small communities of people working together, living together, practicing organic farming, organic gardening, cooking, walking in nature, making something with their hands, and living good life, learning good life, and then starting their own creative and ecologically sustainable businesses. So that's the kind of our vision. And we want to see that network of learning centers around the world inspired by Schumacher College.
Yeah, it's a beautiful vision. And at the same time, it's more than a vision. That's what we've been talking about so much now. That it is now actually coming into the ground. So thank you so much for everything you've done, Satish, through your conversations with everyone, through the building of Schumacher College, and now with the transition it's going through. It has been a pleasure to talk to you again. And I hope to speak to you soon.
My pleasure as well. Thank you for interviewing me and speaking with me and spreading the word. And we are all part of this new movement and companions in this long journey of transformation.
It's a pleasure to be in this ongoing conversation with you, and to finish, because I was very much inspired by a haiku by Matsuo Basho. I knew it in Dutch, but it translates like this in English. The idea of everything that always continues, the ongoing conversation. It says, the temple bells die out. The temple bells die out. The fragrant blossoms remain. A perfect evening. A perfect evening.
Beautiful, beautiful. Basho is one of my favorite haiku poet, Japanese poet. And he made a great pilgrimage to the deep north, and inspired by him, I also made a pilgrimage around the world for peace. And so Basho's haiku is beautiful. So Thank you for quoting that.
Okay. Thank you so much for this conversation, Satish.
My pleasure.
All the best.